Welcome, lovers! I don't know what I'm doing, but you probably already knew that. And today, I decided that we should add on to this lovely train of videos that I've started called Things That I Don't Understand. So let's get that started. Why people fight over which gaming console is the best gaming console. This makes no sense to me. I mean, every gaming console is different for a reason. Some people prefer a certain organization of buttons for the controller. Some people like graphics over story. Some people like the reverse. Some people like to have both. Some people think certain games control better depending on which console you use it on. Some people just like using a mouse. And I don't understand why any of them have to be better than the others, because they all have their positives and they all have their negatives. It doesn't matter. That's like arguing which sport is the best sport. They're all different, but they're all still sports. There's not one better than the other. They're just sports. I also don't understand why people dislike bees and spiders and snakes so much. I can understand to a degree that like horror movies and stuff like that have like made snakes particularly look like these awful creatures, but they're not. And I'm like, there's so many people who don't like bees because, oh my gosh, they're gonna sting you. And I'm like, bitch, bees will only sting you if you make them feel threatened first. It's like, if you could walk through a freaking field full of bees and not get stung once, so long as you don't like, swat at them. They're just bees. Spiders are wonderful creatures. Like, yes, there are particular ones you don't want in your house, like frickin' brown recluse. But for the most part, you don't get those kinds of spiders in your houses unless you live in like a certain part of the world where they're everywhere. Most spiders don't give a shit that you exist. Most spiders stay away from you because they're afraid of you. You're a giant to them. Most spiders will eat other annoying bugs, like gnats or flies or occasionally millipedes, things like that. And most of them aren't even poisonous to people. Another weird thing about spiders, at least to me, is that the bigger they are, the less dangerous they tend to be. Like, tarantulas are fucking harmless, but they look terrifying. And then these tiny little brown recluses look harmless, but they could kill you. And like, people don't know that, and I get that, because, if it looks scary, it probably is scary state of mind. But generally, they're not bad things. They're just, have you ever seen them do that little skippy dance thing that they do when they're scared and they run away? It's cute. If anything, they're just tiny, cute, little helpless creatures that are generally gonna avoid you and kill the other things you don't like in your house. And snakes are generally docile creatures unless they are hungry and on the hunt, or again, you make them feel like they're threatened, or, territorial issues. They generally won't go after you. Most snakes will like notice you and then slither the other direction. Don't be a threat to them, and they will usually not be a threat to you. On top of the fact that unless you're in an extremely grassy area, they're usually easy to spot, so it's not too hard to avoid them. Also, most snakes that are not, rattlesnakes are generally kind of cute. I mean, they got these like tiny little squish faces with their little nostrils, and they're just like, what is? I'm so curious, what is the existence? They're just tiny little noodles. Next thing that I don't understand is how there are people in the world that don't think Furbies are creepy. I mean, have you seen them? They have like these like big bodies and these tiny beaks and giant ears and creepy big glassy eyes that have like a weird effect drawn into them. And like they glow sometimes and flash and it's weird, and they shake sometimes. And like, have you ever seen a Furby on low battery? Oh my god, they will randomly, for no reason, like no interaction, just like start shaking and making noises, and when the battery's low, they sound like a fucking demon. Like, I had one once when I was a kid, and I had it like stuffed in the corner with my other stuffed animals away from my bed, and like in the middle of the freaking night, I just heard like this demonic, gravelly like voice with the flashy eyes start making noise and shaking for no reason. And like, I know I didn't interact with it because I was lying perfectly still in bed, almost asleep, and there was nobody else in my room, and my dogs weren't in my room. So I was just like, what the fuck? They're creepy. They're freaking, I don't know who decided to make them, but I don't appreciate it. Like, how can you see Furbies and not be creeped out to at least some degree? And like the whole, just the way they say, I love you. It's, ugh. Next thing I don't understand is people who look at the stuff that I make in front of me. Like, I can understand, hey, I drew this picture. You can look at it. That's different. But like, people, if I like write a story or like a video like this, and somebody I know decides to just look at it in front of me, like if I'm in the same room with somebody and they start watching one of my videos, I will immediately go into fucking cringe fest. Please stop, don't do that. No. Like the amount of awkward that just overtakes my entirety. It's just, ooh. Or like, my mom reads out loud because she can actually focus on what she's reading better if she reads out loud. And there have been so many times when I have been in the same room with my mother and she has just decided to read a poem or a story that I wrote out loud, like just in front of me, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Why would you do that? Stop. And like, I don't know what it is that makes me feel that way when people look at my stuff in front of me, but it just, ooh, please don't do that. Ooh. Another thing I don't understand is when people find out that you're an artist, like that you draw specifically, the people that are just like, oh, you draw this thing for me right now. Like, they expect you to just drop whatever it is you're doing and draw for them. Or like if you're eating, or just, even if you're just relaxing, them just being like, oh, hey, okay, you can draw this. First of all, that's a little bit rude, because if I'm relaxing, that means I don't want to draw right now, or I would be drawing right now. Second of all, if I'm doing something else, expecting me to just drop whatever I'm doing is kind of, rude. Third of all, just kind of demanding somebody to do this thing that they're capable of doing for you most of the time just to prove that they can do it is disrespectful and a little demeaning. And I'm just like, no, I don't feel, if I felt like drawing, I would be drawing. And if I wanted to draw whatever it is that you wanted me to draw, I would ask you what you want me to draw. Can you just, be a person and be respectful and be like, oh, you can do this thing, cool, move on. Next group of people that I don't really understand are people who, like, expect sexual behavior on, like, the first 1 to 3 dates that they go on with somebody. Like, they literally just completely expect this is going to happen, and if it doesn't, I'm gonna be upset kind of people. Like, why? Wouldn't you, like to get to know the person rather than just, their body? Don't get me wrong, there are people who want just that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that if both people just want that. But if you're going on an actual, date with somebody, like somebody you're trying to court, wouldn't it be better to get to know the person first? And I mean, there's a pretty high chance that person doesn't want to, do that kind of stuff. There are a lot of people that don't want to do that kind of stuff, or at least not that soon. And there are some people that never want to do that kind of stuff. You shouldn't just expect to get that, is my point. Why would you just expect it? Doesn't make sense to me. Another group of people I don't get are the folks that think it's necessary to pressure drugs onto people. Like, I can understand if you're, in a room with a bunch of people who are, smoking weed or hookah, maybe? I don't know, something like that. And being like, hey, do you want some? There's a difference between that and being like, hey, do this thing with me. Oh, well, you have to do this thing with me. Oh, you have to do it. Come on, don't be a pussy, or something like that. Like, what is the point in that? Like, first of all, just because somebody else doesn't want to do it doesn't mean you can't. Second of all, you probably shouldn't be doing whatever it is anyway. Third of all, the only thing you're going to accomplish by trying to pressure somebody like that is making them upset. You could make them feel pressured and anxiety, which is an awful thing, and then they could end up doing it whether they want to or not, and then that could end up really bad. Or you could make them angry and end up having them never talk to you again, or get into a fight, or some shit like that. And you're not accomplishing anything. What is the point? Next thing I don't understand is something that is definitely not safe for work and not safe for children. Just know that. People who don't understand that genitals don't taste good. Like, there are so many people who are just like, oh, hey, do you want to give me a blowjob? Or, vice versa with vaginas. And they're just like, hey, do you want to do this thing? It's like, no, I don't. Why would I want to do that? And, I don't think people understand that if it's not something meant for eating, it typically doesn't taste good. So why, there are just so many chemicals and acidic things and things that are generally not good to put in your mouth on genitals. So why would I want to put it anywhere near my mouth? Because it obviously is not going to taste good. Yeah, there are probably people who enjoy doing the thing, and people who probably like the way it tastes, but everybody else is like, no thank you. So why? Unless you're actually already in a sexual situation, why would you ever ask that? It doesn't make sense, because most people are gonna be like, ew, no, that's gross. Anyway, next thing I don't understand is why so many people are so obsessed with getting married so immediately. There are people in high school who will be dating somebody for a month, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we're gonna get married when we're old enough. There are people who have been dating in high school anywhere between a couple of months to a year, so it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get married in a couple years. And I'm like, what? First of all, you haven't been in a relationship that long. Second of all, why do you need to get married so immediately? And then there are people who are they'll start dating and immediately want to get married, or they'll have been dating for a year or two and be like, oh hey, we should get married right now. And I'm like, I get for some people that that's a thing that works. Okay, if you're fiscally stable and you're really in love, then yeah, I can see that. But most of the time, it doesn't make sense fiscally to get married until you're around 25, at least nowadays. So why would you want to do this whole ceremony thing that generally costs a lot of money, even if you do a lot of the stuff yourself, when you're not already stable and I have a place to live and a job and food to eat, and you can wait. A thing that Jenna Marble said that I agree with is, if you're going to theoretically spend the rest of your life with this person, what is the rush in getting married now? You can get married whenever. The person's still gonna be there if they are the person you're gonna spend the rest of your life with. So there's no need to just rush into it, and I just don't understand it. Another thing I don't understand is the people who will look at somebody who very obviously doesn't want kids and say, oh, well, you want them later in life. And I'm like, you don't know that. Yes, there are some people who will grow into wanting children, but then there are plenty of people who are very obviously very adamant about the fact that they never want children, and there is nothing wrong with that. So I don't understand why there are people who are just so in their faces about, oh, well, you grow into it. Oh, well, you're gonna want them someday. Oh, well, everyone wants kids eventually. No, they don't. There are plenty of people who live their whole lives and never have children and are happy about it. You don't have to force your ideals on these people. You can just, accept it. What is wrong with accepting that people are different? I don't get it. On top of the fact that you usually just end up irritating the shit out of them by getting in their face about it. So, And the last group of people I'd like to talk about in this particular video is people who hand out pocket Bibles. Like, I can understand wanting to, like, share your belief system and wanting to spread the word, because obviously that is something that people who believe in God want to do. They want as many people to get to heaven as possible, so they want to spread the word. I understand that. But the actual, like, random giving of pocket Bibles is what I don't understand. Because, like, the amount of times where somebody who didn't know me, didn't know anything about me, just decided to give me a pocket Bible without, like, they just assume, without knowing anything about me, that I don't already believe in God. Like, a lot of the times when I worked at Taco Cabana, I got at least 6 different pocket Bibles because somebody came through the drive-thru, was like, hey, this is for you. I want you to keep this. And, like, first of all, I already have a full-size Bible at home and a pocket Bible because, you know. Second of all, I'm already a Christian. I am already baptized, believe in Jesus Christ, have accepted him into my life person. I believe in God. I believe there will be a rapture. That is just how I think. And so you're basically just giving that to somebody who doesn't need it. And, like, I can understand if, like, you've gotten to know someone over a period of time and you think that maybe you'll be able to change their mind and then giving them a pocket Bible. That's different. But just, like, the amount of times you're just going to give somebody a pocket Bible that doesn't need it or who already has one is just, like, it's not really doing any good. On top of the fact that if you hand it to somebody who is very strictly, like, atheistic or has a different belief very strictly, they're just going to throw it away. So it's a waste anyway. My point is, if you're going to give out pocket Bibles or things like that to other people, at least get to know them first so you know it's not being wasted. Because it seems like a waste. And that sounded like it hurt, but it didn't, I promise. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, but if you didn't, that is perfectly okay and perfectly understandable. But I hope we'll see you in the next video anyway. So until then, I hope your day is just as lovely as you are. So, bye. Do you want to seize the day? Because carpe diem.